Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers. It's a midweek Winners and Losers with me and Joe, where we're going to visit the latest and greatest transfer rumours, run them under the old microscope, and we're going to take a look at round one of the Euros. It's come to an end. What have we learnt? We're going to look at one winner and loser from recent match weeks because, of course, Joseph and Zach are very hungover. Joseph did an episode on Monday, didn't you? How was your weekend, Joe, before we crack on with the episode?
Yeah, weekend was good. I've also really enjoyed seeing the group of death last night for the first time, the Portuguese, the French and the Germans. Wasn't as impressed by France as maybe some people online, but you never know, we might touch on that a bit later on in the show.
Of course, the weekend, quite far away at this point, but I did book Monday and Tuesday off. Were you rough on Monday?
I was... To say rough is an understatement, I think. I could barely see when I shot Winners and Losers, to the point where I think I introed it as We Need to Talk and didn't bother doing a follow-up intro. So that went really well. Yeah,
I also saw that your Twitter handle was my Twitter handle. So few things wrong with that episode, but we go again. And I just want to say that, today's episode and the rest of Winners and Losers over the Euros, sponsored by our good friends over at Manscaped. You knew the words were coming out of my mouth before I said them at home. Now, here's a strapline for you, a strapline and a half. With Manscaped, you can now trim up your personal pitch without fear of scything your scrotum. Unlock that scrotum. Confidence with that exclusive offer, or the exclusive offer displayed on screen, I should say. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the discount code FootballDaily20. Click the link in the description below if you want to know more. Don't two-foot your own testes by neglecting them, guys, and any other bollock related football analogies you can think of in the comments below. Anyway, talking of pairs, there's a pair of players that have been linked with Arsenal a lot recently, Joseph, and that is James Maddison and Ben White. That signing would be that duo would be the bollocks for Arsenal, right?
Yeah, Arsenal are set for what is going to be an incredibly busy summer, if you believe some of these transfer rumours. I think Mikel Arteta is in for a summer of turnover. There's going to be plenty of outs. Torreira looks like he's going to leave the club. Matteo Guendouzi consistently linked to Marseille. Granit Xhaka seems like he's off to Roma, according to DiMarzio. That fee's very close to being agreed. Hector Bellerin's agent is basically doing a tour of Spain at this point. I think he was at Villarreal most recently. Then on the incomings, we've seen Ruben Neves potentially coming through the door. That looks like it's been sort of put on hold until after the Euros, after Granit Xhaka is confirmed as leaving. We saw Albert Lokonga have a €15 million bid rejected for Anderlecht's box-to-box midfielder there. Vincent Kompany rates him extremely highly. Martin Odegaard was the principal target at attacking midfield, of course. That move kind of looks like it's on the rocks, not going to happen now. With the arrival of Carlo Ancelotti, it seems like Odegaard is going to want to stay and fight for his place in Madrid. We've got Onana potentially coming through the door as well. And now, over the last couple of days, we've seen James Maddison linked and we've seen Ben White linked. Now, James Maddison, I think, is really interesting because obviously Martin Odegaard was the principal attacking midfield target. They had some interest in Buendia. He's gone Villa. So James Maddison fits the sort of mould of the player Mikel Arteta is clearly trying to sign, a creative midfielder to take some of the burden off of Emile Smith-Rowe. But I have to say, this would be punchy, in my opinion. I saw Chelsea linked with him as well. I don't think Chelsea need him, given that they've got Mason Mount, who's going to play pretty much every minute of every game. And even if Ziyech goes, I think that would be a ridiculous move. But this would be really punchy because I think Leicester are still going to ask for sort of 70, 80 million potentially. And if Arsenal can go out there and sign, Neves, Lokonga, a right-back replacement for Bellerin, whether or not that is Tyler Adams. I saw him linked, even though he's a defensive midfielder who can kind of operate at right-back. Onana, James Maddison and Ben White this summer is a huge statement of intent. I'm just not sure they've got the money for all of it, Hamster.
Yeah, and we don't know how reputable the sources are for this move. Chris Wheatley put it out on Twitter, didn't he? He's a very reliable journalist, but did say that the origins of the Maddison rumour comes from the AFC Bell.
He called Partey, though. He did call Thomas Partey.
He did call the Thomas Partey deal. But 18 months ago, you'd have dismissed this as just absolute bollocks, wouldn't you? He was so essential to Leicester, and it looked like they were, offered him a new deal, that they were going to make him the fulcrum of the side moving forward. But the injuries are catching up with him, and I would not put it beyond Leicester to turn, 50, 60 million pounds for James Maddison into two very savvy signings, and for them to quickly move on from the sort of output that he brings to the side, I guess. It has been decreasing of late. Of course, the move for Boubakary Soumaré looks like it's going to be wrapped up by the end of this week. Odsonne Edouard looks like he's heading to the King Power for a very modest fee, just £18 million. That is an absolute bargain for him. Of course, he can operate anywhere along the forward line. You wouldn't put him in the 10 position or 8 position where Maddison plays, so it's not exactly like for like. They have retained, it would appear, an interest in Felipe Coutinho. And that might be part of the reason that they would be sort of amenable to James Maddison leaving the club. But like you said, it would require a pretty hefty fee. And Arsenal have got to spend money elsewhere as well, haven't they? And another player they've been linked with, Ben White. £50 million. This one looks a little bit more legit. David Ornstein tweeting about it, saying that Brighton would actually be pretty okay with releasing him for £50 million. Maybe like Leicester, they feel like they can reinvest that money really smartly and bring in 2 first-team players. But it kind of makes sense. I know Rob Holding signed the new deal, but they obviously like Gabriel. He's left-footed, plays on the left-hand side. Mari can cover there. He's always, Arteta, been a little bit unconvinced about Saliba, but even he impressed out on loan at Nice, didn't he, in his 22 appearances? So maybe he's coming back to the club where people hire him in slightly higher regard. He could be potentially be cover. So I don't know. I feel like the White one is more realistic and probably, I say more necessary only because Smith Rowe. Like, where's Smith Rowe going to play if Madison comes in, or do you find a way to incorporate them both into that side, Joe? Floating 8s.
Well, I think Emile Smith Rowe has injury problems, doesn't he? And James Maddison has pretty consistent injury problems. So I think you would find minutes for both of them. I think the bigger concern is, does James Maddison want to move to Arsenal? Leicester are consistently challenging Champions League football. Arsenal at the moment are in something of a rebuild stage. Does James Maddison want to drop down to Arsenal, as weird as that sounds, for potentially what would be 4 or 5 years of his career if Arsenal are in a rebuild stage? I don't know. I think that's a tough question to ask, but like you said, for Leicester, if they can reinvest James Maddison's money in Boubakary Soumaré, Odsonne Edouard and Philippe Coutinho, I feel like that's quite smart business. Arsenal, if they can get all of this business done, Mikel Arteta is going to be absolutely buzzing, but it's going to be a busy summer for Edu, mate.
Yeah, a little bit of a head scratcher. We'll see how it materialises. Obviously, we'll keep you up to date across our various shows. Right, let's dive into our Euros recap then. We've done a classic winner and loser formula for this one, and there could be no other man to fulfill our winners section than Cristiano Ronaldo, who of course became the record scorer at European Championship finals, didn't he, owing to that brace against Hungary. Did you watch the game? Did you catch the highlights? What did you make of his performance, Joseph?
Yeah, I watched the game. I actually thought he was pretty poor up until the last sort of 15 minutes, Cristiano Ronaldo. I thought Portugal was struggling, actually. Diogo Jota, I thought, had a really poor game. Very wasteful, very un-Diogo Jota-like, slightly selfish at times. There was a moment when he could have set Cristiano up early doors, and there was one where he probably should have left it for Bruno Fernandes. So I thought Portugal kind of grew into the game. They looked a little bit slow at the start, and that defensive midfield pairing in particular is pretty cumbersome, isn't it? I thought they looked much, much better as soon as they got Renato Sanchez on the pitch, and he was able to drive through the lines with the ball at his feet and open spaces up by doing that. But in classic Cristiano Ronaldo fashion, he can be pretty quiet for 80 minutes and then goes and scores a brace to become the all-time top scorer in UEFA's elite competitions for both club and country, of course. That was him appearing in his 5th European Championship finals, by the way, the most of any player. He's also racked up the most appearances at major international tournaments, that's 39, and is the oldest player to score a brace at the Euros. He's, of course, 36 now, but he's still got the body and the temperament of like a 28-year-old at this stage. So, although I didn't think Portugal were exceptional, I thought Hungary were pretty poor, to be honest with you. I think they are probably going to be whipping boys of that group, as we all anticipated. And if you've got them as the worst team in any of your sweepstakes, I think you could be on for a winner. But yeah, they grew into the game, and at the end of the day, they are gonna score plenty of goals, this Portugal team, just because of the calibre of forwards. But they play quite conservative football, I thought.
Yeah, the guys I was with were not happy that both Danilo and Carvalho was playing. Yeah. And they're actually telling me that for the international side, Carvalho tends to be even more defensive than Danilo, which is obviously surprising for those who have watched Danilo play that role at PSG and often turn out as centre-half as well, right? So, yes, it was very attritional stuff. I thought that Willy Orban, bless him, was great for 85 minutes.
Yeah.
And then the last 10, he, of course, that goal came in off him, that very fortuitous Rafa Guerrero strike, and then he gave away the penalty, which I also thought was a little bit unlucky. Because the striker just slowed up, didn't he? The winger even. That was Rafa Silva, the Benfica winger, who came on at the end of the game, and I thought he was just as influential as Renato Sanchez. I thought they were both great when they came on. Of course, Rafa Silva, a bit more direct, pacey winger, plays quite a simple game. And I think, Portugal knew what they were getting from him when he came on, and it worked. And yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo got all these gongs and accolades in front of a full house, didn't he? Of course, the Puskas Arena, the only ground at the tournament that's hosting full capacity games. So that was great, if not slightly surreal to see. And it also makes you feel a bit uneasy, doesn't it? Seeing that many people in one venue at this point, not used to it at all. And that is because the Prime Minister lifted restrictions because I think 5.3 of the 9.8 million people in Hungary have now been vaccinated. So congratulations to that rollout. That's pretty impressive. Hungary now winless in their last 4 games at the European Championship. So a very familiar feeling for those players who, fought so valiantly for 80 odd minutes. And now Ronaldo faces the very real possibility of breaking Ali Dai's record of 109 international goals this tournament. This tournament. All time. Sure. So he needs 3 more. He's only ever scored, his best return, is 4. I think that was in the 2018 World Cup. So it would be, a personal best for him. But we'll see. Plenty of meaningless friendlies to come after this tournament as well. So it's going to happen, isn't it? Just a matter of time. Right, let's move on to losers then, in the interest of speed. On paper, Joe, this was definitely the highest quality game. Only 3 of the starting 22 players hadn't won the World Cup or Champions League, which is astounding. And both sides had a very formidable record in match week 1, didn't they? But got off to a slow start.
Yeah, it was a bit of a cagey first 15 minutes before that own goal from Mats Hummels, which I thought was incredibly clumsy, to be honest with you. Really poor bit of defending. His body shape was all over the place in that one. But yeah, like you said, this was the 2 sort of highest caliber teams we've seen in the tournament facing off against each other, at least, because I think a lot of people have been looking at this Germany side, obviously finishing bottom of their World Cup group in 2018, Joachim Löw coming out of a job after this tournament, looking at it and thinking, are they actually going to be able to compete with France and Portugal? But I thought they competed pretty well. I wasn't massively impressed by France. I thought they got the job done, and the players and the calibre of player they have in this team is going to take them probably to a final, if not win it. But they do play quite attritional football, France, don't they? They sit back, they hit you on the break, they use Kylian Mbappe's pace in behind a high line, which the Germans employed. They use Paul Pogba's passing range, but it's not the most entertaining, in my opinion. And in some ways, I thought Germany was sort of deserving of a draw. I think that France put up the 4th lowest expected goals of any team in the tournament so far last night. So some people might say the Mannschaft, deserves something out of the game. They outshot France 10-4. In fact, in the last 30 minutes, France didn't have a single shot, although they did have 2 goals disallowed because of VAR. Both correctly so in the end. Can I just say as well, VAR's implementation at the Euros so far has been nothing short of spotless. But yeah, I have to say overall, Germany did control the ball, didn't they? 62% possession, and France were kind of happy to let them just have the ball in front of them and say, okay, as soon as it breaks down, Mbappe's going to go in behind, Pogba's going to work some magic. So I thought Pogba was exceptional across the game. Robin Gosens was one I want to point to. He created a team-high 2 chances. The one thing I do want to say is that I don't think Germany's subs had a positive impact on their side at all. I thought Leroy Sané was really quite poor when he came on. Some really sloppy touches. That free kick irritated me a lot, in a really good position for Germany. And, Volland, when he came on, was absolutely shambolic. I've never seen a man play 10 minutes and put himself out of contention for any more tournament football like that. His touch was a shambles. His finishing was all over the place. He looked like he couldn't pass. So yeah, Germany, I think, will have looked at that game and said, we're probably going to lose this, but if we can take away a positive performance, we'll be relatively pleased. I think they can, because, to keep France to just 0.3 expected goals is no mean feat. So yeah, I was pretty. I don't want to say disappointed by France, but I just wanted something more.
Oh, mate. It was just peak Deschamps ball. I mean, you see the average positions of the players. I think it's only Kylian Mbappe that's in Germany's half. And he is very high, very wide. The game plan was quite clearly for Paul Pogba to find Mbappe. And Paul Pogba was finding people all day, wasn't he?
He was outrageous.
He was probably man of the match. I mean, saying that, Toni Kroos also played very, very well. But, yeah, the Frenchman absolutely ridiculous in this one. The most touches, the most duels won, the most recoveries, most aerial duels, most take-ons completed. Just all action last night. And France were lucky that he put in that sort of performance because, yeah, I think without sort of a stellar showing from him, they would have been in trouble. Or you know what? You know who would have been in trouble? Just the viewer. It would have been absolutely dull as dishwater, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? But Rafa Varane, also great at the back. Pretty much won everything, didn't he? Made a game high 5 clearances. Thought Antoine Griezmann, thought that was one of his better showings actually of late. Well, that at least I've seen from a personal point of view. His link-up play was good. I think he created 3 chances. So fair play to him for sort of making himself extremely busy. He chipped in on the defensive end of things as well. But yeah, I think you pretty much summed it up. I was bored, and I thought Germany deserved at least a draw. But let's quickly move on then. I want to ask you, Joseph, who was your player of the round?
Ooh. Yeah, I think you have to go a long way to find a better performance than Paul Pogba last night. I have to agree with you there. Definite man of the match for me. Although probably Romelu Lukaku. I think Romelu Lukaku hit the ground running in the perfect fashion for a golden boot charge, which I firmly believe he's going to do given the state of that group. I think he will absolutely smack is it Finland and Denmark in that group. So, yeah, I'll go for Romelu Lukaku or Paul Pogba.
Okay, I think that's a very good answer. Let me know your players of the rounds in the comments below. And, of course, just one more reminder that Manscaped are sponsoring this episode. And if you want 20% off their stellar products, then use the discount code on screen now or visit the link in the description below. I have been told to say, hit the target and shore up your D this Euros with Manscaped. Manscaped, come on. You're better than that. You're better than that. But, okay, that's it for this week. And we'll see you next time on Winners and Losers. Goodbye.